in the book, I teach about music, but I do it in a way where when something happens, all of a sudden they go into we talked about like the crescendo canyon or the legato lakes or the fortissimo fortress or the key signature caves. And how they exit is by understanding the key signatures. And so, I do it in such a way where it still is part of the story, but it brings music to life.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello there, piano teachers. I hope that you are doing well today. We are already at the end of 2025, which I cannot believe. I don't know about you, but my December is a little crazy with concerts, recitals, parties, and so many other good things. But when my last performance ends on Christmas Eve, I might just collapse on the couch and not move for a week or two. If you also are going to be collapsing on the couch, you might consider checking out the new book written by my guest today, Jerald Simon. He's going to share all about it in today's episode, but I have to tell you, I thought we were just going to talk about the book, but we actually got into marketing, publishing, productivity, all sorts of things that you might find really useful. Here's a little about Jerald. Jerald Simon is the founder of Music Motivation and focuses on helping piano students and piano teachers learn music theory, improvisation, and composition. Simon is an author and composer and has written 29 music books featuring over 400 original compositions, 14 albums, 3 motivational poetry books featuring over 400 original poems, and is the creator of the best-selling Cool Songs series, the best-selling Essential Piano Exercises series, and Essential Piano Lessons for piano students. Here's my chat with Jerald. Hi, Jerald. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited to talk with you today. Can you start out by introducing yourself and telling us a little about what you do?
Thank you. Well, my name is Jerald Simon, and I'm the founder of a company called Music Motivation. I began as a piano teacher, and I still teach piano lessons 2 to 3 days a week, but I started creating music books of my own and albums, and I started doing workshops and seminars to teach students and piano teachers how to get excited about music. I teach, now my company is called Music Motivation, but I really focus on 3 primary areas. One is music theory, another one is improvisation, and then the last one is composition. They have become known as theory therapy, innovative improvisation, and creative composition, essentially teaching piano students, piano teachers, how to understand music theory, and I always refer to it as the practical application of music theory, where you take the music theory and you learn how to arrange and improvise and even compose music of your own. So I enjoy doing it.
Nice. Okay, so you have a lot going on, and you've recently done something completely different from any of those things you just mentioned.
Exactly.
Yes. So you are about to have a book published. I think when this airs, it will probably already be out, actually. So why don't you tell us about that? Tell us about your latest venture.
Thank you. So I have written, some people know me. I've been interviewed before on this podcast about my Cool Song series and my essential piano exercises. And I have over 40 music books I've created, and I've created various poetry and self-help books, and I love it. But as of November 24th, so we're almost 2 weeks away, week and a half, but on that Monday, I'm coming out with my first ever fictional book. It is titled The Musical Realm. And I've written some short stories or parables or different things, but this new book, it's entirely fictional. It's 330 pages. This is book 1 of a 5-book series that I've already outlined the entire series. I have the names of book 2, 3, 4, and 5. plus the chapter titles, plus what will happen within each chapter already outlined. So I actually began working on this. Came up with the idea in 2018, and then 2019 and 2020, I started really kind of fleshing out the outline. So this will be fun because the book, The Musical Realm, it's completely different than what I've done before. It's a fictional book, but everything in the book is about music. It is about the arts. It's about philosophy. It's about, and so everything that you see in the book and that you read about, from the characters to the destinations, rivers, lakes, it all has to do with music. And so it's a fun fictional adventure story that I've created, and it has some Christian religion themes scattered throughout, but the entire book is all about music. And even the characters and the places they visit, they go to the Fortissimo Fortress and they meet the grand staff. And, they start understanding why we have the treble clef and why we have the bass clef. And they start meeting these characters that in our world is terminology. But in the musical realm, they are real life people, from the half notes, the eighth notes, the quarter notes, the 16th notes. Everything is a real life person or creature or place. So it's something completely different. But I created this because I really want people to just jump into the musical world, the musical realm, and understand and learn about music in a way they've never learned about music before.
That's so cool. Okay, so I have to ask you, I have a lot of questions, but first of all, do these characters that have musical terminology names, do they have characteristics that are similar to the terminology? Like, does a half note have something to do with two beats?
Exactly. Yes. And I don't want to give away all of the detail.
Oh, no, we don't want you to.
But as an example, I'll give you, some kind of details about that. And in the book, I go through and talk about. So the book starts off in chapter 1, and I have this on my website. I even have a free download of the first 2 chapters. So I'm not giving anything really away. But in chapter 1, it begins with a 13-year-old boy. He just finished 7th grade. He'll be starting 8th grade soon. So he's almost 14. And he's taken piano lessons for about 3 years, but he hates the piano. He wants to quit. And his parents sign him up for piano lessons with a brand new mysterious piano teacher, an older gentleman named Markham Darius. And so what happens is his parents take him to this first piano lesson, and Markham Darius lives in this castle-like manor that it looks like a fairy tale setting, and the entire surrounding is just unbelievable, and has this gate that just opens up as if on cue. And they drive in and they meet Markham Darius. And during the first piano lesson, his parents go off and they explore the beautiful gardens and the library, and Matthew is with Markham Darius. And Markham Darius can tell that Matthew is not excited and is not really wanting to play the piano. So then Markham Darius says to Matthew, "You will never truly appreciate and enjoy music until you get inside the music and discover what it is all about." And with that, a lightning bolt shoots out from the piano music on the piano. And then mist and fog starts to creep over off of the piano music into the room, and sparkles start to fly everywhere. And there are these screams coming from within the music. And Matthew wonders what's going on. And he turns to Markham Darius and asks what is happening. And his teacher says, as I mentioned before, you will never truly appreciate music until you get inside the music and discover what it's all about. And with that, Matthew is sucked into the musical realm. And so when he is sucked into the musical realm, he enters a series of worlds unlike anything he's ever seen. There are castles and kings. There are dragons. There are pirates and pirate ships that fly in the sky. And everything, all of these monsters he has to conquer, they all have to do with music. And the first thing that happens when Matthew enters this new realm, this musical realm, when he comes to, because he's knocked unconscious, when he comes to and wakes up and then stands up and looks around at the world around him, he is surrounded by the 8th Infantry, 8 noble knights that are there. They serve and protect the Grand Staff, and the 8th Infantry represents eighth notes, one for each of the. So every single, and again, we cover eighth notes, half notes, quarter notes. Everything has a symbol or a representation. And even the terminology, the legato lakes, the fortissimo fortress, the crescendo canyons, everything within the book, it has to do with music.
Did you have so much fun writing this?
I really did. And outlining the book, what I wanted to do, the book actually, since I've already outlined the entire 5-book series, I still have to finish writing books 2 through 5, but I've outlined what is going to happen within each chapter. And so what people may not realize is little nuances that appear in book 1, even if it's a 1-sentence example, or if they pass by a statue, or if he sees a flower that is shriveled up, or a boy gets scratched by a cat, or one seemingly insignificant experience, it will be reintroduced in book 2 or book 3 or book 4 or book 5. And it's fascinating because all throughout the book, and I have characters in the book who explain what is happening. And so they help the reader understand, oh, in our world, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But in the musical realm, it's, and then they go through and explain. So all of a sudden, students, whether they are musicians or not, they will start to understand music on a completely different level entirely. And I really have just had so much fun creating this book.
Yeah, I bet. So who is the book written for? Who is the ideal reader for you?
So the book was created with teens and young adults in mind, but I've had many adults who have been reading this and they actually love it. And many times I grew up, of course, reading C.S. Lewis and reading all of the different, great writers out there, but I also loved self-help. So I grew up reading a lot of Ogmandino, and I grew up loving poetry. And so I loved reading Edgar A. Guest, and a lot of my own motivational, inspirational poetry kind of mimics Edgar A. Guest and his poetry. I do have a new poetry book I'll be coming out with next year that is actually more like Shel Silverstein and Dr. Seuss, funny, nonsensical poetry. But throughout this book, because I have created a story and interwoven motivation and inspiration and philosophy and historical experiences within the book, there are many adults that are just loving this book. And they're saying that have even had people who have said it's kind of like C.S. Lewis meets Ogmandino, because you're talking about great morals and values, but you're using a story to do it. And so it is for teens and young adults, is what the age category in the genre. But really, it's for anyone who would like to read this and to have a fun experience as they travel to the musical realm.
Yeah. Okay. I have to ask you, how do you have time to do all this? Like, you have 5 books outlined, you're writing poetry, you're doing all of this musical stuff. How do you do it?
You know what? I don't know. And I just came out with a new book 2 weeks ago, actually, called How to Experience More Peace and Positivity in Life, the 30-Day Challenge. And I'm coming out with this new book, The Musical Realm, before I've even really been marketing and promoting and trying to hit that. So for me, I try to organize my days, and I have so much I want to do and so much I would like to accomplish. And I know I can't get to everything, but for me, I always need to be creating. whether it's composing new music, whether it's coming up with a new book or poetry or a new story, even going out in the yard. I love to garden, and even creating by digging in the dirt and saying, okay, I want to have this fruit tree here, and then we're going to create a little fruit tree guild around the base and have some flowers. And personally, I always just feel like I need to be creating. And so it's tough because there is so much I want to do and so much more I would like to do. And I really need to prioritize and say, this is my main focus, and then I'm going to work on this. And I've become pretty good at kind of having different days be different, almost categorizing or trying to schedule success, where I've labeled my days. You know, Mondays, Motivation Monday. Tuesdays, Theory Tip Tuesday. Wednesday is Website Wednesday, where I'm really working on my website or marketing or promoting. Thursday is Think Tank Thursday, where I'm thinking of new ideas, where I dedicate a few hours where I'm just planning and saying, okay, I'd like to do this, or I want to come up with this, or I need to come out with these new books or albums or whatever. And Friday, I tend to have it be more Fun Friday or Fabulous Friday, where I'm doing some fun activities and things. Yeah, so for me, it's really trying to schedule success and organize my day, organize my time on my calendar. It's funny because when people look at my own personal calendar, they'll say, wow, you have so many activities and events. And I'll say, that's just me. That's not these interviews. That's not these meetings. That's me saying, at this time, I'm going to do this. At this time, I'm going to. But part of it is scheduling success and then following through and trying to do that. And so for me, that's a big focus. And then my wife always laughs at me because she'll see me post something on social media and I'll say, I have a new book I'm coming out with, in 2 or 3 weeks. And she'll turn to me and say, that's amazing. I didn't know you were finished with the book. And many times I'll say, I'm not, but I've given myself a month, and now it's like I have to hold my feet to the fire and I need to come out with this. Now, the musical realm is different. The book 1 has been done for almost a year and a half even. And I've been re-editing. I've gone through probably 30, 40 edits myself, where I went through and I printed out the book 30, 40 times and I marked it up like crazy. And I edited it, and I had my wife go through and edit it. And then I went through and my mother-in-law looked at it. And then I went and hired an actual professional editor who teaches at the university, who does this for a living. And I had her edit the book. And so it's been, steadily trying to fine tune and get this the way I want it to be. And since I outlined the book beforehand, I know where I want the story to go because I already have kind of each book outlined. So it gives me direction, but it helps me because as the writer, I know when one of the characters is saying this or when they are trying to do this, it's because this is going to happen to them. Even though the character may not know it, or even though, one of the other characters may, but even all throughout, there are little elements where I foreshadow things that will happen, maybe not in book 1, but maybe by the book 5, you'll have something that you'll go back to book 1 and say, wait a second, how did they know this in book 1 all the way through book 5? And it's just because I went through and mapped everything out before writing the book.
Yeah. So you're telling us we should pay attention to the details in book 1.
Even the names of buildings, rivers, everything, even if you see a statue that is missing a finger, everything I put in there for a very specific reason. And then in later books, you'll understand why.
Okay. You mentioned the editing. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the publishing process. I think there are a lot of piano teachers who want to dabble in publishing, maybe write a book or music or whatever it is. Can you talk a little bit about, did you self-publish and what was that process like?
Thank you. Yes. And so I actually set up, it's self-publishing, but at the same time, I went through and set up my company, Music Motivation, as an official publishing company and as a record label. So it's, even though it is technically self-publishing, I guess I'm the owner of Music Motivation, it has been set up as an official publishing company. So when people go and see it, they see Music Motivation, it's an official publishing company. And the way I set it up, so with my various music books that I have come out with, every book has a barcode. So my company, Music Motivation, I buy all of the barcodes. I have ISBNs. I register it with, Congress. I go through and get the Library of Congress catalog number, and it's a very lengthy process. Most people don't realize to do it correctly like this, it actually takes a great deal of planning, because you can't even, as an example, register with the Library Catalog of Congress until you have published 3 to 4 books. So it's a very lengthy process, and I trademarked, Music Motivation. I went through and tried to set everything up from a business perspective. Now, when you are thinking of publishing, and I try to encourage piano teachers who would like to publish their books to do so. It is wonderful, and it's a great way for piano teachers to have a little extra income coming in from books. Now, you can go down the traditional publishing route, and I've had publishing companies contact me, and they have wanted to buy rights to my books, or they've wanted to publish my books, but I've wanted to just keep it in-house. I remember early on, I had both Hal Leonard and Mel Bay contact me, and they wanted to publish my book, Variations on Mary Had a Little Lamb. And they both were they were offering me like $2,500 or maybe $2,800 as an upfront royalty. And then every book published after they had recouped the money that they gave me as an advance, then they would give, I think, 50 cents, maybe 70 cents per book. And I thought, I'm just going to do this on my own, see if I can make more self-publishing and doing this by myself, because I also wanted to control the rights. And sometimes authors don't think about that. I've met many authors, piano teachers, who started composing, creating their own music. They went with a traditional publisher, and what they don't realize is if the book drops below 10,000 sales, now in today's market and economy, most books, if they sell more than 10,000, that's a miracle. Most books don't even get that close. But for a traditional publisher, if it drops below that number, they will put your book out of print. But they retain the rights, and then you don't have the rights, and your book is out of print. And so many times that can become a deterrence, where piano teachers have to think, do I want to go with a traditional publishing company, or do I want to do it myself? If you do it yourself, you retain the rights, you have the ownership and the copyright, but you do need to do everything, which means you need to market it, you need to write it, you need to either pay someone to design a cover or design it yourself, or you need to edit the book or hire someone who will edit the book. And so you need to think of it as a business. And you need to go through and say, this is how I can start to market and promote the book. Let me show you as an example. And this gets into marketing and talking about how piano teachers can market. So my series, Essential Piano Exercise series, we have 100 left-hand patterns every piano player should know, essential piano exercises, essential pop piano exercises. We have essential new age piano exercises. We have essential jazz piano exercises. Each of these books, and most of the books that I've come out with, because of the way I have marketed the books and because of the way I have tried to promote them and have people get free review copies so they can review the books and share their review or testimonial on Amazon or different places, each of these books have been #1 new releases. And then what I do is I like to use one review to get another review, or one milestone or event to try to get a newspaper or to write a story or maybe a media coverage. So for me, I've always looked at it as once I've created the book, once I've written the book, that's the initial step. But now it's just getting started. Now you have to actually market. You need to promote. You need to get it out there. And so every little step, if I have a review or if I will get the #1 new release, then I take that and I write a press release and I send it to all of the newspapers and all of the media. So then I can get on, channel 2 or channel 4 or channel, 13 or whatever. I can be interviewed on the media. And so I like to use that to my advantage. But most piano teachers don't realize it's a lot of work. So either you have a company do that for you, but they will retain the copyrights, or if you do it yourself, just know that it is a lot of work, but it is so worthwhile and it's so fun to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we could go down a whole rabbit hole about marketing, but I do want to kind of highlight this because I think a lot of piano teachers think that if they create something and they, post it once on Facebook, post it on their Instagram, whatever, maybe send out an email, and then they're like, oh, well, I only got a few sales, so I'm done. It's not a good product. People don't want it. Right? Talk a little bit about what it actually takes to get the word out. I know you mentioned a few things like media and all of that, but I would love for you to just go a little deeper into this whole idea of marketing.
Absolutely. Thank you. What most people don't realize, I will send out 500 to even 1,000 PDF copies as review copies. And thankfully, and this is very helpful with piano teachers, if you are a piano teacher and you send out a review copy to a piano teacher, they have students who then are potential buyers. So it's not like you're just saying out to someone who doesn't have an audience or doesn't have influence. You have a built-in audience and a built-in market. So I try to help people understand it's actually one of the best niches for, trying to get your book or your product out there, because what you can do is you can reach another piano teacher. They already have an audience. See, if I send out 500 to 1,000 PDF books as book review copies, I may only get 25, 50, or possibly 100, if it's really good and I get a lot of return, reviews. So from the 500 to 1,000 PDF copies I send out, I may only have 25 to 100 people who actually write a review and leave a review. But the more reviews you get, the algorithms, and this is why you have to think like a business, the algorithms are impacted, because then you have people who are visiting your page, either on your website or on Amazon or wherever, and then the algorithms shift and they say, wow, this page is getting a lot of traction. I know people who they've become a #1 new best-selling author for the #1 new release, and they haven't sold a book. They haven't sold a copy, but it's because they've had thousands of people visit their page, and then the algorithms take over. And then because of that, what happens is they're then put on Amazon's best new #1 release. Well, what is so great about that, these are lists that Amazon curates. And so Amazon will come up with their top 100 best-selling books, top 100 most wished for or requested books, and the top 100 best #1 new release books from 1 to 100. Once you get on one of those lists, it's like free advertising, because people check those lists. And if you're on one of those lists, you're not paying for that marketing. It's as if Amazon is marketing for you. And most people don't realize what you need to go through to get the word out. Because as you mentioned, people will create a post and they'll share a post on Facebook, and they'll do it once, maybe twice, or maybe they'll share it in 5 different groups. The average consumer of any product they need, and it used to be, they used to say at least 7 to 10 hits where they would see your product, and then now it's closer to probably 20 to even 100, where they're seeing your product over and over again, and all of a sudden your name becomes synonymous with that product or that area of expertise. My so this is one of my best-selling books, 100 Left-Hand Patterns Every Piano Player Should Know. And when I first came out with this book, I was the only one who had created a book that had left-hand patterns. Now, it's essentially two books in one. It has the first half, we have 100 left-hand patterns, and then we have 100 songs in fake book format. Well, what happened is with that book, because no one else had done anything like that, now we have all these people who have copied what I did because of the book, and then they've tried to come out with their own. I saw one 300 left-hand patterns, everyone, and they're trying to take what I did and kind of go to the next level, and that's fine. That's what people do when they see a product being successful. But this book, 100 Left-Hand Patterns Every Piano Player Should Know, has over 12 or 1,300 reviews on Amazon. It has been in the top 100 best-selling music theory books on Amazon for like 5 years in a row. And I tell people, if you're going to start promoting a product, what you need to do is you need to start with a grassroots effort, kind of ground level, start sending out press releases, start sending out free PDF copies, get some traction, get people reviewing it, sharing their testimonials. I tell people, after you have at least 100 reviews of your product on Amazon or your website or wherever, then you can start paying for advertisement. And you can, and most people, they go about it the wrong way. They start to pay for advertisement and they don't have any reviews. And then what happens is nothing happens, and they're spending money or wasting money on advertising. But if you have at least 100 reviews and people can go back and read these reviews, then when your ad goes out, what happens is all of a sudden people start reading the reviews, and then that triggers in their brain the little mechanism that says, I need this book, because all of these other reviews are saying how it's changed their life and it's been amazing and wonderful. And so for my own self, my own rule is I wait until I have at least 100 reviews of the book, and then I start taking out ads. So again, you have to think like a business. And piano teachers are very good at thinking like piano teachers. And they're great at doing that. But I usually tell piano teachers what you need to do if you come up with a book or a product. You need to teach like a piano teacher. If you're composing music, you need to compose like a creator. If you are presenting, you need to present like an educator. But if you're trying to publish, market, promote the book, you need to think like a business. You can't publish, market, and promote the book like a piano teacher. It doesn't work. So you need to put your business brain on and say, how can I do this as a business? How can I contact influencers in your specific area or your niche who have an audience or a following? And how can I have them reach their audience? A good example, even this podcast that we're doing right now, what we're talking about is reaching your audience. And it's helping those who are in that audience. Within that audience, then they can have a trickle down effect where they may have additional people. See, this becomes a ripple effect where you want your message to hit the right people at the right time and in the right place. But if you are not prepared, if you don't have the right cover image, if you don't have the right outline or layout or formatting of the book, and most people, they try to do it on their own. And I did. When my first few books, I designed the covers and I went through and did all the formatting, and I went through and it suffered because it took all of my time. And at the same time, There are so many better graphic artists than I am. I'm okay, but there are so many that this is what they do for a living and they're phenomenal. All of my current covers that I have for the past, I think, maybe 8, 9 years, they've all been designed by a graphic artist that I found who lives in Ukraine, actually.
Oh, wow. They're beautiful. I know our listeners can't see, but I can see, and they're really lovely.
They're great. She does a fantastic job with all of the covers, and I will usually give her direction and some advice or suggestions. And she did a fantastic job with my newest book, The Musical Realm, and it even stumped her a little bit because with most of my books, I'll say, here's the title. I'd like to have this pretty image on the cover. With all of my essential piano exercise books, I came up with the idea I wanted to have a piano, a grand piano, and then I want to have some beautiful scenery or landscape in the background because it's the essential piano exercise series. So I wanted to brand everything. And again, this is what piano teachers need to think about. You are the brand. It's your image. And you need to be as detailed as possible. Even my name, every time you see my name on any of my books, it's the same font. It's Trajan Pro. That is the font that I have selected to be consistent with my name. And so you need to think about what colors, what your logo or your graphics, or you need to be so customized and personal and think about what your colors will be and have it be a brand that carries over with your website, your business cards, your books. Everything has kind of a similar color. On my website, you see a lot of red, black, and white. Those are kind of my colors on my website with some grays, but that's kind of the colors for my website. Same thing with my branding, my marketing. And again, it's understanding your audience, understanding your niche. Sometimes piano teachers try to create everything for everyone. Well, you may have, and we talked about this at the beginning when you asked what the niche or the genre of the musical realm is, and it's for teen and young adult age individuals. And sometimes it's even fallen under the Christian fantasy, action, and adventure category. But that's the genre. That's the niche. That's the focus, the focal point. If you teach piano lessons, you may be a phenomenal teacher for children, ages 4 through 10, but maybe you don't work very well with adults. You need to focus on your niche. Maybe you focus on teens. When I first started, I realized quickly that I loved working with teens and adults. That was my niche. And I also realized that everyone taught classical music, and I was classically trained, and I had been classically trained. And so I loved classical music, and I loved playing everything from Chopin, Rachmaninoff, Liszt. But there are so many amazing classically trained teachers out there that I started looking around and thought, what's a topic or a subject that most teachers are not teaching in my area? Hardly anyone was teaching jazz or improv or blues or boogie woogie or how to arrange a song or how to play the song, like my book, 100 Left-Hand Patterns, talks about how to play the same song 100 different ways. And so I started focusing on music theory and improvisation and composition. And that became my niche or my area of expertise. So much so that I have piano teachers all the time. When I sit down and I was playing some beautiful Chopin and Rachmaninoff pieces somewhere, and I had piano teachers that came up to me and said, wait, you can read music? And I said, well, of course I can read. I started reading music before I could play by ear and before I could, but because it has become so ingrained as I teach improv and arranging and composing, then when people hear me play a classical piece, they're dumbfounded. and they think there's something wrong about that because it doesn't work with what they've been led to believe.
Right. Most people do one or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This has been so good. Like, I thought we were going to talk about the book, but you've given us like a masterclass in marketing and selling. This has been fantastic. Before we close, I just want to ask you, you mentioned the reviews, and I know that you've sent out preview copies to a lot of people of the musical realm. And I would love for you to just share with us what the early response has been before it's even available to the public, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So the early response has been wonderful. So many people who have been reading the book have been amazed at the story. I've had several people, because we live in the AI age, I've had several people who have asked how much of the book was written with AI, and I tell them none. I don't use AI for anything. I hire a graphic artist who designs a cover, and I write the book, and I don't use AI for anything. And some people in today's society, they'll use AI, and that's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be very effective. But so many people have been shocked by the content because as they've read through the book, they've said, some of the responses have been, it's epic. I had one that, let me read one of the reviews. You can actually the book will be live on Amazon, like I mentioned, on Monday, November 24th, 2025. Right now, the Kindle book is available as a pre-sale on Amazon. It will be available as a paperback, Kindle, PDF, a hardback copy, and as an audiobook. But on my website, if you go to musicmotivation.com/musical realm, you can actually buy the PDF book right now before it goes live, and then you can even pre-order the paperback book. But let me go to that page right here, and I want to read a review that someone shared just a few days ago. They said this: so you created Narnia plus piano lessons plus spiritual awakening. You know that moment when you read a book description and suddenly your inner child sits up like, wait, so the piano explodes into lightning and a 13-year-old gets sucked into sheet music? Why didn't my piano lessons do that? All I got was trauma and scales. That was me reading The Musical Realm. Matthew isn't just learning music, he's literally entering it. Thunder shaking the room, multicolored beams of light blasting from the piano like a spiritual EDM concert, fairy dust fog, mysterious screams from inside the treble clef realm. Sir, you made piano lessons look like a Marvel origin story. And then I read your author bio. You aren't just an author, you're a composer, poet, motivational speaker, mentor, and apparently the human version of caffeine and productivity. You've built an entire ecosystem around inspiration courses, community, motivational poetry, piano programs, and now a young adult fantasy series about music, purpose, and faith. You didn't just write a book. You're teaching kids that music isn't a chore, it's a destiny. Meanwhile, I spent 8 years in piano lessons and can still only play Twinkle Twinkle. Oh, the betrayal. And so I've been receiving several reviews like this, and people are saying it's kind of a cross between C.S. Lewis meets Augmentino. It's this amazing epic fantasy fictional adventure action story, but it does have faith promoting, value centered, positive, uplifting premises and principles scattered throughout the book. And like I said, in the book, I teach about music, but I do it in a way where when something happens, all of a sudden they go into we talked about like the Crescendo Canyon or the Legato Lakes or the Fortissimo Fortress or the key signature caves. And how they exit is by understanding the key signatures. And so, I do it in such a way where it still is part of the story, but it brings music to life as it never has before, because I want individuals, especially teens, young adults, the rising generation, to fall in love with music. I want them to get excited about playing the piano, about learning an instrument. I want them to wake up each morning wondering what they can do and how they can enter the musical realm and learn everything they can about music. Because when they do, that is when music becomes more for them. Their life changes. And I think both music and the arts can impact us in so many meaningful and impactful ways that we change. Throughout the book, it talks about being better today than we were yesterday and being even better tomorrow than we are today. And I think that's one of the greatest things we can do. And music is one of the greatest vehicles we can use to change for the better and to change those around us as we share our music with the world.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jerald. And congratulations on the book. I hope that it's a wild success when it comes out. In case, I know you mentioned Amazon, but in case people missed it, tell us one more time where they can get the book or any of your books or products.
Thank you so much. So my main website is musicmotivation.com, and you can go to that website. If you purchase anything from my website, I actually have a promotional discount code you can use. Top Music, TOPMUSIC, and that will give all of the top music listeners a 15% off discount on anything they purchase from my website. It is for life. So it's not a one-time. You can use it with every product you purchase from my website.
Wow. Thank you, Jerald. That's awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes, and you heard it here as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I have a few other websites. They're all hubs from musicmotivation.com, but youtube.com/Jerald Simon. And my name is spelled JERALDSIMON. That's a great place to go. But all of my books are available on Amazon. They're available from barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, any of the big outlet stores. They may not be in the store, but if you go to the website, you can purchase them. And again, if you live in the United States, if you go to musicmotivation.com, we can ship out the books. I do have a distributor that Chesbrough Music, and they distribute to all of the music stores in the United States. So my music books are available from any music store. If they're not in your music store, my distributor can get them into your music store. But these days, most people just go to Amazon or my website.
Okay.
And that's the best place to go.
All right. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was fantastic, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate everything that you do and everything that your podcast is doing to help share the love of music with the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed the show today. I appreciate how open Jerald was about his journey to publishing and how he markets his resources. I feel like this idea of marketing has been a bit of a theme on the podcast lately, that you can't just create something and tell people once that you made something and expect it to become a bestseller. If you have something that you've created, you should be talking about it every day. If you want to start by telling me about it, I would love to hear from you. I'm so interested in what piano teachers are creating for their students or for other teachers. You can send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Rachel Ehring, and tell me what you've created that you think the whole world should know about. That's the end of the show for this week. Next week on the podcast, I'll be talking with a pianist who's also an organist. I haven't done the interview yet, so I have no idea where that conversation will take us, but I'm really looking forward to chatting with Kelsey Berg. So be sure to tune in next week for that. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I will talk with you again very soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.